June 4th, 2024 to order. Sorry? My mic is on. Can you hear me? Okay, now we're better? Okay. I'd like to begin by acknowledging we're fortunate to be gathering together on the unceded territory of the Simpcw people who have been caretakers of this land since time immemorial. Are there any late items to add to the agenda? Seeing none, can I get a mover and seconder on that? On the agenda? Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor Matheson. All those in favor? Declaration of known conflict of interest or pecuniary interest. I have one. So I will be stepping out on item 11.3 related to transit as a spouse works for the company that currently provides the transit service. Okay.
I'm not sure if I have a conflict. My paycheck comes from Yellowhead, but she works for another contractor. I don't know how that.
I'm also going to have to step out as my partner also works for the contractor.
Oh, do we?
Do we quorum?
Well, thank goodness Shelley's Councillor Sims here today. She was originally not going to be here, but that retains quorum. So I think it's wise to do that. And Mr. Johnson probably has more comment.
To determine whether or not conflict of interest, but out of an abundance of caution, if spouses are receiving funds from Yellowhead Community Society, then it would probably be in your best interest not to participate.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting held May 21st. Are there any errors or omissions?
One error.
Mike?
One error. I would like my report adjusted and just remove or adjust the ability to receive drone footage. It's not able to happen.
Thank you. Staff will note that. So nothing under 9, nothing under 10 or 11. Oh, sorry, I have to move the measures. Mover and a seconder with the amended minutes, sorry. Moved by Councillor Bratton, seconded by Councillor Frizzle. All those in favor. And as there's nothing else under business till 11.3, I will step out of the room along with anybody else in conflict, and acting mayor for the month of June, Councillor Frizzle will take over this section of the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Blackwell. We'll wait for everyone to leave. So the reason that this is coming up under unfinished business for reconsideration of BC Transit operating agreement is that the last meeting council approved the agreement, but that a couple of days later we received a information from BC Transit that they're going to do regionalization. So we want to discuss that further. Do you have a report, Mr. Johnson?
I don't have a report, no, but I did have a conversation with the BC Transit representative prior to the meeting, and we understand that they're delaying the implementation of regionalization by a year.
By a year? Oh.
And they will still look at doing regionalization. What we suggested was that BC Transit come and have a discussion with council. Clearly, they indicated that the presentation that you have in front of you isn't the presentation that they would provide to you. That was the presentation for the contractor. So they let me know that their slide deck would be different when they're coming forward. So I think it's important to invite BC Transit. They said they'd be able to come in July or August to come and have this discussion. I think by putting the annual operating agreement and holding off on that until council comes forward, or the BC Transit comes forward, is appropriate so that council can get their questions answered about what regionalization looks like and what the implications are in our community.
Is there any questions to that? Go ahead, Ms. Councillor Sim.
So I do note that the annual operating agreement is dated April 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025. So when you say that they're going to delay it by a year, would that be for April 2nd, 2020, or April 1st, 2025?
So the annual operating agreement is to continue on with the transit service as it is with YCS. What then happens, we don't have the ability to tell transit who they contract with. That's the crux of the issue. So from an annual operating agreement perspective, I think delaying it by a meeting until we get an understanding of when they can come forward, I think is appropriate. So council can hold off on that, providing forward. But we are not saying that we don't want transit. What we're saying is we'd like some collaboration. And what I heard from BC Transit today is they would like to do that and like the opportunity to come forward to council.
My question is that if we don't sign the agreement, everything just follows along as per usual?
I'm not sure I'd go that far at this point. This does put some pressure on transit to come forward, put some pressure on us as well, because the annual operating agreement isn't signed. But by delaying it by 2 weeks to the 18th, it gives us some time to sort out what this looks like.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Sim?
It does raise some questions under Section 8, Local Contributions and Reserve. British Columbia, and this is on page 5, Section 8. British Columbia Transit Service is provided using a cost-sharing model. So if this were to be signed, but there is no monetary inclusions in this report, is that something that would be discussed on the 18th?
I think with what's happened with transit, we haven't paid a lot of attention to it for the last few years. We have some contractual issues that we need to iron out between ourselves and the TNRD, and also working with BC Transit to get this information for council. What I would anticipate is we'll put a report forward to council with these sort of questions answered, with the annual operating agreement attached to it.
And one last supplemental, if I may. What I would also be curious, since they have opened the door to this conversation, is would this be an appropriate time to also discuss an expansion of that Clearwater to Kamloops service, or, North Thompson?
Typically, transit will come up and talk about ridership, look at what new schedules might look like. They come forward with the transit planners that say, this is what this is how the system's performing. Here's some of the enhancements that we can have. I can ask that question of transit of when they will make their staff available to talk to council about what that looks like.
Yeah, because I think that when we do review the transit numbers, that is probably where we see some of the largest and most popular ridership. And I think that, as we've seen over the past winter, is different conditions of the highway, having that service available has been invaluable, and seeking to continue to move forward with that.
And I think what BC Transit spoke to us today about was collaboration. And I think this allows us to get that collaboration to happen and make sure that council feels that they're getting value for service. And we do that through our transit partner by having them come forward to council. So my intention is to get some more answers that we don't have at the moment that we're seeking to get. And I know that transit will be watching this for what council's questions are, so that we can collaborate and bring that back forward.
Thank you. Any further questions? I have a question. Do we need to rescind that motion that we made last meeting if we're not going to move forward with it?
Yes, Acting Mayor Frizzle, that would be required.
Okay, so do we have a motion to rescind the, I don't know how it, the annual operating agreement? What was the dates? April 1st to March 31st, 2025, until further notice?
Do you want it more specific than that, Mr. Prime?
No, Councillor Sim, I can fill in the blanks from there.
A seconder for that?
Second that.
Councillor McKenzie, all those in favor? Guess I better put my hand up. Is that everything that we need to discuss? Okay, can we let the mayor and others in? Thank you.
Like a fast express bus or something. Okay. Back. Thank you for that, Councillor Frizzle. Nothing under 12. Item 13, Mayor's Report. A few things since the last meeting. On May the 25th, I did a CBC interview on the need for more nurses and other healthcare professionals in Clearwater after having a conversation with Heidi Schilling from the Dr. Helmicken. I think currently we're about a dozen healthcare professionals in key positions short right now. That said, they have managed to stabilize the hospital and haven't had a closure since that date, but I am still of the feeling that we're probably at risk on a regular basis of closure of the hospital. On the 23rd, I attended the Clearwater and Area Community Wildfire Round Table that brought together local professionals in the firefighting and fire response business, and including our staff and emergency management personnel. So really great conversation, lots of learning there. On the 27th, I attended the local health planning table at the hospital. Lots happening there, and I hear that the hospital auxiliary is very close to their fundraising goal for the new X-ray machine. I believe they're about $45,000 or so short at this point, and I think we probably can help them find that, but that's a fantastic goal. That's over $300,000 raised for that, and that's in addition to the machines that I believe the Community Forest sponsored that have already been funded. On the 29th, I attended the inauguration of the new SIMP Council. Really great, simple presentation. Myself, Mayor Torgerson from Valemont, and Mayor Stamer from Barrier, all were in attendance, as well as other local officials. We had elk dinner, it was fabulous. On Friday, May 31st, I had a Zoom meeting with members of the BC Park executive team. I thought I was going to be there for an update on Helmicken platform because I had heard that they'd had a construction issue there, and I was expecting a significant delay on that while they did a redesign. That was minor. They actually already solved that, so they're still planning to have Helmicken platform open for Canada Day long weekend. They were hoping earlier, but because of the slight redesign and the need to require materials, they're aiming for Canada Day, and they still think they can meet that deadline. The unfortunate part of the conversation was, though, that what they had actually called me for was to tell me that the River Road will not be repaired due to issues with environmental concerns for Department of Fisheries and Oceans. The high difficulty of repairing in a place like that, and the highly likelihood it's going to wash out again anyways with the climate events we've been seeing. The construction's needs were pretty high. There's been studies for alternative routes around there as well, but they are quite expensive. Though I do hear some members of the community at large also have ideas for potential routes around the area, but none of them are going to be at the rate that's required for commercial customers, for the rafting companies, to make that really that feasible. So that's kind of disappointing, but they did a lot of work for a lot of time, and I'm quite sure some people will try to solve that one still. Stakeholders were notified the same day that I was, so it's not a surprise to those in those industries that I'm saying that here. So, and that's it for my report. Councillor Bratton.
I have not much to report. I just would like to reiterate something from the May Day Parade. One of the floats had as a slogan, "You are why we love Clearwater," and I just want to say it again. And I would like to reiterate, you matter, we care.
Thank you. Councillor Frizzle.
Thank you. I attended the Tourism World's Grain meeting, and just to reiterate what Mayor Blackwell said, that the plan is to have the Falls platform open for July 1st weekend. But I really wanted to state how good the staff at the Visitor Information Center is at been directing people to other falls, other highlights in the park. And the biggest comments that they've got is, I had no idea that there was that much to do up in the park. So it's been really good in that sense that they've been able to direct people to go to different places, and the park is being used more broadly. So I thought that was important to reiterate there, that some good has come from this little bit of a shutdown. They're also in the midst of making a trail map, which is all the trails that are within Clearwater and within the park, and it's going to be in quite a large big sheet. This is not helping me being very visual, but it's a big piece of paper that you can fold out and see where all the trails are, so you'll be able to go and to where you want to go. Then you can fold it back up, and it's just a small little thing you can stick into your back pocket. So it's in not waterproof paper, but stronger paper, so that it doesn't get damaged if it rains or whatever. And the park ranger also, or park manager also informed us that there are 4 student rangers out there, 1 ranger and 2 naturalists have been hired for this year, so that's good news. Moving on to the seniors are very excited because they have been directly notified by Strategies North, who is working on a feasibility study for the addition to the Sportsplex addition, and they're going to be coming to the seniors luncheon next week, and they're going to be talking to the seniors about what they see as potential for that space and what they want to see, and they're excited to be included. So I thought that was good that they came, and they're going to be taking up the whole hour to talk about it. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a question on that,
I
Councillor
just have
Brent?
one thing to add to that. Apparently on the survey, there was a question 13 that it asked for multiple answers, and so I brought it. It wouldn't allow you to do that, so now they've adjusted it so that it specified. They weren't able to change it because it was already put out, but now they have specified, please put all your options that you would like selected, if that helps anybody. So
Yeah, I saw that complaint a couple of times. Some of my seniors did too, and I went and did it, and it worked for me, so it was weird. Yeah, so I don't know. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Mike's a little hot. Councillor Herring.
Not much to update for me. I just want to extend my congratulations to the new Simp Council. That's really exciting. Bike Week's going on, which is really exciting. There's lots of kids out there on the road, so everyone keep your eye out for kids, especially in the morning and the afternoon. But I drove by the school yesterday and noticed just how many bikes were in the back of Raft River Elementary. So awesome to see, and there's going to be lots of future cyclists in our community. So definitely worthwhile continuing on that bike infrastructure and stuff, which I think I really want to point out that River Road is an opportunity there. I think that's another way we could use that road. A lot less money goes into it. It's a 60K flat ride to waterfalls that are now inaccessible in Wellsgrave Park. So I think there's some huge potential there. And that's about it for me.
Thank you. Knowing how this community operates, somebody will have that done probably before this meeting is over. So, yeah, thank you for that. And Councillor Councillor McKenzie.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Blackwell. Pretty quiet couple weeks for me. Nothing to report short of the fact I attended the bike week yesterday, did the bike rodeo down from the high school. We did leave a little earlier than the rest of the group, but our SMP members, making sure everyone's, stopped at the top of the hill, take your time. Maverick that was there from his store, checking in on everyone to make sure brakes, helmets, bikes were maintained to satisfactory levels. So it was nice to see them there, all the volunteers helping. And as Councillor Herring said, the bike numbers were high there, so it's nice to see. Thank you.
Hey, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad the RCMP continues to do that. Councillor Matheson.
Yeah, nothing really, pretty quiet couple of weeks. I did go to the Frank Ritchie presentation and walk in the woods, and it was great. It rained on us like crazy and learned lots of stuff, and then the subsequent film screening. And it was very educational. I actually learned a fair amount, and there was a good stories told by some people that were there, and it was really enjoyable. I'd like to see that happen again at some point with maybe a little more advertising or getting the information out there. So it was really good, and that's about it.
Thank you. I believe Frank said he had new video of Jerry the Moose in our film. Did he present it yet? Well, there's, our Hinterland Who's Who minute is there in somewhere. Councillor Sim.
Thanks very much. And thanks to everybody who came today. It's nice to see you. To follow up on the mayor attending the local health planning table and getting some of the updates on our healthcare situation. We do have a new physician that's arriving in September, which will be great. And I will have to leave just before 4 today because we're doing some more interviews, which is exciting. I also had the opportunity to attend the Royal Inland Golf Tournament that was hosted by the Truckers Association. And the Truckers Association, they are just a force, raising several thousands of dollars that will all go towards recruitment that will be used, throughout the valley and into Royal Inland sites. So we're very fortunate to be affiliated there. I also, speaking of the biking, I want to do a shout out to Wells Gray Outfitters for bringing community together in different ways. Creek, which has been really good. Do want to draw attention, in case you haven't seen it, but the in-person engagement that's happening for the North Thompson Sportsplex, and I believe that is the 8th and the 11th, and I think that there is a notice out on the outside. But just to recap for everybody who's here, it's June 8th, 8 to 9 at the Elks Lodge, and then 9 to noon at the Farmers Market, June 11th at 11 a.m. at the Clearwater Legion, and June 11th, 3 to 6 p.m. at the North Thompson Sportsplex. So that survey is also available online, and it's got a great little QR code, which is terrific. And another shout out to Recreation Coordinator Leanne Culp. I think she's putting together some really terrific different events and different opportunities for people, which has been well received. Last week, I attended School District's 2073 honors and would like to acknowledge Reed Meddyman, Saya Stelter, and Soren Coates for their superb performance in their time at SD73 grad. And speaking of grad, did we have any success finding the grad banner?
Yes, Councillor Sim through Mayor Blackwell. I searched high and low and it was not to be found.
Really? It was a graduation memorabilia thing. I will let them know. Thank you very much. But for anybody who is interested, graduation is at the high school next Friday. And then the infamous prom parade is Saturday starting at 4 o'clock. Well, it's very exciting times in these, it's always really hard to see these kids leave. Anyway, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for that. Moving on to item 16.1, we have a staff report on the final financial update to March 31st, 2024. I'm assuming Ms. Glassen is going to speak to this as soon as we get that up and running here.
Okay. So my report is on page 41 through to page 45. I'll just highlight a few items, Mayor and Council. The financial report is for Q1, January through to March. Please remember that the financial plan was approved in May. So for our actual operating revenues, we had operating revenues of $673,698. Some of the highlights here are the municipal taxation wasn't calculated until May, so you will see that in your Q2 report. Sales of service is tracking on budget. We're at 25% at $380,709. Government transfers, we received the climate action rebate for $173,000. That will be reallocated to a reserve later in the year. And in other revenue for $115,000 is basically interest and is tracking just a bit better than our financial plan. Moving down to actual operating expenditures, all operating expenditures are within a reasonable budget at about 25%, except for the NTSP, which is just tracking a little bit higher at 28%, and that's basically due to more activity in the NTSP through January through March. And then the other item is our debt servicing payment. We have an annual payment that was paid in March, so that you won't see that in the future quarters for that annual payment. It was for the water utility. Moving through to pages 44 and 45. Those are our projects that we have in our financial plan. This year, we have 46 projects in total. And it just happens to be that 23 of those projects are capital in nature and 23 are operating special projects. So if you look at the report that you have in front of you, you have the final budget, you have the actual costs up to March 31st, and the remaining budget, and then the financially complete, and then the status. So those are just going through the columns that you have on your report. Although we do not have a lot of dollars coming through up to the end of March, there's a lot of activity going on. And if you look at your status, you see in the capital projects, most of them are active. If council has any questions on a specific projects, please let us know.
Are there any questions of council? Councillor Sim.
I just want to go to the Sportsplex budget, which was up slightly, and I know that we had previously heard that the tournaments were down, but it looks like the efforts to attract championship and provincials and playoffs really compensated for those other areas. So I just wanted to do a big shout out there. Thank you very much. That's helping rebuild that winter tourism. My other question, and just for clarification, is when we read the accessibility project, that is actually the Sportsplex expansion, and that was grant funded. Is that correct?
The accessibility project is grant funded, but it's not for the Sportsplex. Did you?
Is it not?
Mr. Mayor, I think, wants to clarify on that.
The accessibility grant was for 3 projects, wheelchair accessible picnic tables, which were delivered today, some accessible doors, which we're installing at the Sportsplex, and then some accessible playground equipment, which has been ordered. There's a ground level carousel and some accessible ground covering, and that's all the pieces have been ordered.
So just a point of clarification, at what point was there an accessibility? Because I think we did hear that when we were discussing the Sportsplex expansion, that it did tie into some sort of accessibility.
My recollection is, as part of the second floor expansion, we currently have a very small elevator, a very steep set of staircases. So in that whole planning and part of that consultation, there would be the need to create properly accessible bathrooms, elevators, and stairs, if there is such a thing.
Yes,
for
that's true. That is all in the design right now.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
yeah. So,
If I may.
Mr. Prime.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Sim, through the chair. It was the New Horizons for Seniors grant that's funding the second floor feasibility.
Thank you.
So it was for seniors and other marginalized groups.
Yeah, thank you. That was rattling around in the brain that we did get grant funding. I just didn't know where that grant funding was from. Excellent question, Councillor Sim. Are there any further questions on this?
Maybe just one more, is we've got the generator for the backup power. Has that arrived? I noticed that it's still active but not complete, but it should be any hour, maybe?
It is scheduled to arrive mid-June
Yes.
to early July. But I don't have an exact date yet. It isn't shipped on the ground yet.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you for your work on this, and glad to see things are lined up really well. Moving on to item 16. Oh, sorry, there is a recommendation. Sorry, can I get a mover and a seconder on this recommendation? Moved by Councillor Matheson, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. All those in favor? And that passes. Thank you. Moving on to item 16.2, there are 2 recommendations there in a staff report in relation to paving projects, and I'm quite sure we'll have some staff comments on this or questions from council if they wish. Mr. Carmichael, go ahead if you want to just explain the areas that are going to get paving on them.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, the paving project that was tendered was for the remaining of Candle Creek Road. We rubblized it last year, and it also included the sidewalk along 37 East property from Dutch Lake Beach to Dutch Lake Road.
Okay.
So the True Consulting tendered the project for us. We had 2 bidders. and Dawson Construction was a low bidder at $524,000, which there's a breakdown, a financial breakdown on there. So it was over budget for the roads. Our Candle Creek Road project was $300,000 budget, so it comes in at about 367. Last year, we were approximately $60,000 under budget with the rubbleizing out of the 300,000 we had allocated. So that went back into the roads surplus. So I'm recommending that we increase the budget by $67,000 so that we can complete the entire project. The second option is there is an optional piece that we included that we can remove to put us back into budget.
Okay.
Which is, we rubbleized 2 sections,
Right.
and there was a section joining the 2. The plan was to overlay it,
Overlay that. Okay.
and it's in relatively good condition right now, but
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Any questions or comments on this? Councillor Matheson?
Yeah, just so I'm clear, that, so there are 2 sections that have been rubbleized that are gonna be paved. And
correct.
we're doing a section that connects them, and that's gonna be paved as well, and that's
That's the option.
proactive approach to that?
Yes,
So saving money in the long run.
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that would be my comment too. I would like to see it go forward with that. You know, and also the comment that $500,000 gets you this amount of road, and we're looking at a scope of a community with, I believe, 69 or 72 kilometers of road, depending on which day of the week or survey that we're doing with, and that it's critically important with financial management moving forward. I'm really grateful to the finance department for working on the Questica project and things like that, which allow us to do reports much more easily on these things. But looming in the next 20 to 25 years is basically, I'm going to estimate between 25 and $40 million worth of infrastructure that needs to happen. So we really need to get on that. Mr. Johnson.
This is exactly what Mr. Carmichael and I were meeting with True Engineering about on Monday for the full day. There are companies that will come through the community and assess all of the roads and give us a priority. And then council has the opportunity with the investment we have to see how quickly they will deteriorate based on what our investment is, or how quickly we can rehabilitate them based on what that investment is. And we're planning to bring a report to council to undertake this review so that it becomes really easy for council when you're looking at this to know, yes, that's the #1 road that we need to reconstruct at this point. And it becomes very easy for grant funding to go, yes, this is priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. And so we're looking to bring some rigor to council for that, so that you're not having to, this is where we need to go for this year. You'll have verifiable data to rely upon. And it's an exciting project that we're looking forward to bringing to council.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Herring?
I'm not sure if we have the answer offhand. How much did we put into the roads capital reserve with this budget?
I don't know if Ms. Klassen has that off the top of her head. It's very
Maybe.
year to year.
I think it was about $300,000, but I can quickly check and I'll get back to you if it's not correct.
Oh,
So we're still growing in the roads capital reserve this.
Yeah, at the end of the year, we have about $600,000.
Great, thank you.
Further questions, comments? Councillor Sim?
Just for clarification, is this piece that pulls it together, is it before the turnoff to the Candle Creek trails, or is it after? Like, where does it sit in terms of
So
the road?
So the entire project is kind of from that 90-degree corner,
Yeah,
or maybe sharper than 90 degrees, and then it ends just before Barber.
okay, so, and that's why I'm asking, because I think that that's an important piece, not only for summer and winter use.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bratton?
I might be missing it, but what's the kilometer length there?
I think it's just under a kilometer.
Just under a kilometer.
Yeah.
And it's 499,000? Or,
That's including the piece at Dutch Lake.
yeah,
The pathway.
I just want it clarified how much money goes into each kilometer.
Yes.
It's a
I think that's important.
boatload of
Yeah.
money.
The conversation on the other one that, that a lot of people are not happy with, council on is Dunn Lake Road. The Dunn Lake estimates have been between $2.7 million and I believe 4 over the time, that I can think of off the top of my head. And that's basically $1 million to $1.5 million per kilometer to repair that road, fix that road and bring it up to full standard. So this is the kind of saving that we need to do for some of these projects. And as far as grant funding, it's not a high priority for other levels of government to fund road grants. They're into sewer, water, and things like active transport. But yeah, roads are not sexy anymore when it comes to the feds or the province if you can get grants out of them. So generally this is on us to do a proper financial plan. That's why I'm looking forward to this report from staff, because it will tell us what's the best time to hit some of these repairs and renews, so that we're not waiting too long. Spending money wisely, I think, is probably what we'll get out of this. So thank you.
And one more thing to add, something that is sometimes visual repair isn't always meaning how much in the end what we actually need to do. So it may look like it's a really bad road, but it may not actually be. It's stability and structure. Other ones, possibly they might look okay on top, but underneath there's not a lot supporting it. So this would be fantastic to get a report on where we need to go and what with the funds we have.
Yep. Thank you. Good comments. Anything further? If not, there's 2 recommendations. What's the desire of council?
Motion that we award the paving contract for the amount of $499,000.
That's number 2. Do you want to do number 1 first? Yeah, sure. Okay. Increasing the funding. Moved by Councillor Matheson, seconded by Councillor Frizzle. Further discussion? All those in favor? That passes. Recommendation 2. Do you want to move that one as well, Councillor Matheson?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. A seconder? Somebody stick their, thank you, Councillor Bratton. All those in favor, and that passes. Thank you. Nothing under bylaw, nothing under correspondence required. 2 items of correspondence, one from the, for information only, letter from the City of Kamloops Recommunication and the BC Interior Community Foundation statement. If there's any questions on that. Okay. If not, move on. No notice of motions, comments from the public. Any questions from the public at this point? Okay. Do you like to come on up? Yeah, state your name as well. Thank you.
I've been in Clearwater 43 years. I just have a question about the roof that they're planning, or the second story on the sportsplex.
Yeah.
That little petition, it's not a petition, it's a survey that you've sent out.
Yeah, survey.
Does that have anything to do with whether it will go or will not go?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple things with this. Is what would the survey is more about what would you want up there if you were the community, and what kind of things that the community feels it needs, like meeting space or a weight room or things like that. But part of this has been an engineering study to decide what could physically go up there, so that we could know whether or not we could put an elevator up there, where the stairs and the bathrooms would go if we were to expand that area.
But it hasn't been approved that it's going to happen.
It has not been approved, no. The studies have been approved so that we understand what we're getting into. Funding it would come back, and the amount would probably be high enough that it would probably go to referendum.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless there was a giant grant out there that was going to cover 80% of that, odds are it's coming to referendum.
But isn't a grant still tax money?
It is tax money from another part of government, from the federal government.
Like the money we pay for our land taxes goes into a pot.
What you pay for your property tax goes into municipal funds. Your income tax, both provincially and federally, that's where those larger grants, those provincial and federal grants come from, as well as oil royalties. That's another. There's a lots of sources for 80% of the taxation is provincial and federal.
Okay.
at least. So yeah, no, that's where that comes from. So yeah, nothing's been approved. This is finding out what we can do and what people want to do if they were to move forward on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Further questions, comments? Mr. Keogh.
Good afternoon. I was going to let me begin by saying, introduce myself. I used to be the CEO of YCS. Now I'm the chairperson of the board of directors. And I'm here to sort of comment on the happenings of the past couple of weeks regarding the transit and the information we received from BC Transit. Let me begin by saying when we were notified 2 weeks ago that the contract would be not extended in 2025, and that was it. We received a slide deck. We were shocked, dismayed, and frankly demoralized. And if I can beg the indulgence of council and the public a little bit to just give you a bit of background, I think most would know this, and in fact Annabelle is here and she would know most of this history. So our organization started the system before incorporation, before the District of Clearwater in 1997. We started really in 1994-95, purchasing some old buses, trying to, generate some interest, providing services to seniors and persons with disabilities, which is what we were doing at the time. We had the contract for the Seniors Outreach Services and the Community Living BC contract. It was not an easy task. We did it. We found money from Vancouver Foundation, Kamloops Foundation. We operated it for a couple of years, free of service to those groups, and in consultation and conversation with our then TNRD director, we were told if you can generate community support, we'll take it to a referendum. Our society organized a 200-person gathering at the CSS. There was overwhelming support for the idea. And it went to a referendum and passed overwhelmingly, 95% or something like that. So that was kind of the genesis. Let me just go next to, we kind of got left to our own vices and merits for the first probably 10 or 15 years, again, prior to incorporation, and that's kind of understandable. But we used, our best skills, our best abilities to make the service as reliable, as effective as we could, given a couple of big things: population size and geography. Let me just give you a sense of when I did the very first runs to think about what would be, some routing, and it was kind of, sort of a bit of a joke about Clearwater at the time, because to go from, at that point, the bank to the grocery store to the hospital to the post office was 22 kilometers. So that was what we had to deal with, and that was not an easy task to put together something. Anyway, we did. And the other thing that we were very conscious of and mindful of was the cost to the taxpayer. We're a nonprofit. We like to consider ourselves being nimble. We value the dollars that, especially not all just the local taxpayer, but especially the local taxpayer, because we are a small community with a limited tax base. We are very well aware of that. So we did as much as we could to try and keep costs to a minimum. One of the things we did, by the way, without a lot of support from, at least from BC Transit, was we set up an arrangement with the school district, which at that point, you recall, we were our own district before we got rolled into Kamloops. So we did all of our cleaning and all of our gas purchases through the School District 73, which gave us a 10 to 15 cent discount on every liter of gas. I would go to conferences. People marveled at, how you could do that, because that's a big cost when you're running those distances. Anyway, we did it on our own, and we continued to work with the School District 73 when it went to Kamloops. It's probably been about 10 years since that, but that's the kind of thing that we did to try and address the cost issue. The other thing we did was, it was a global contract. It was an annualized contract, and we had to stay within the boundaries. If we went outside because of whatever reason, mechanical issues, repairs, whatever, we ate the cost. We couldn't go back to transit and say, can you give us more money? It didn't happen. But then they changed the system to kind of an invoice-based system. And I didn't get a chance to look at the numbers with your new CAO, but I'm confident that as soon as we went to that system, the costs went up. Because no longer were we in control. you know, and we couldn't put our mind to how we can keep costs. It's just get done, send us the invoice, you know. So I just wanted to reflect a little bit on that history. I could say more, but it's kind of the guest portion. I don't want to take up your time. But the one thing that was really frustrating, and this is not our first go around where regionalization has raised its head. So let's get rid of the semantics. Regionalization means withdrawal of services from rural communities. That's all it means. It's just a buzzword for Victoria bureaucrats to say we're going to regionalize, we're going to make it more efficient and more effective, and those two things will never happen. It will be more expensive, and it's plain as you can see. If they go to a for-profit company that doesn't really care, the costs are just going to increase, and I could go into some detail about that. So the regionalization stuff was incredibly frustrating for us, given our history with this. Let me just touch base on a few other things. 2003, we evacuated this hospital on our own. You know, there was no district of Clearwater. We knew it was an issue. We called our bus drivers in. They evacuated the hospital. 2017 in Ashcroft, our bus driver got called in. Again, no transit involvement. Evacuated the hospital. That driver worked from 7 in the morning until 1 in the morning the next day to get everybody over to Merritt. Not only that, had a passenger from Clinton that couldn't get back because the bus was in Ashcroft going back to Clinton. Took the passenger with her to her daughter's place in Kamloops. Met somebody from Clinton on the back road coming through Bonaparte Lake and dropped the person off so she could get home. That doesn't happen with private contractors. But it did, and we evacuated. Then, in 2017, you remember, everything was closed. 99, 1, 97, they were all closed. 5 was open. A lot of resources put onto Highway 5 because it was the only access. And there were fires on both sides of Little Fort. You could see them from the other side of the river. We were told to remove all the buses out of Clearwater, put them into Kamloops, because transit was worried they were going to get burned. And we said, well, we've got a hospital here. Oh, we'll send people up from Kamloops. What if the highway's closed? Oh, we'll send people down from Prince George. I said, you're talking 5 hours just in the straight drive alone. So I phoned Terry Lake's office. Terry phoned the minister. They backed them off. Only for a week, though, and I was getting the calls again. But then we just did the slow walk. So that's the kind of stuff we've done to try to advocate, which I think when you've got a local nonprofit familiar with the demographics, the geography, you can do. But imagine now, these buses, they were fairly old, but to say that they're more important than people's lives if we have to do an evacuation, I mean, that was just ridiculous. Anyway, that was my rant for the how we forget about, you know, the things that happened in the fairly recent past. But the overarching concern was saying, oh, by the way, this is the end of the road for you guys, and we're going to talk to our, you know, the local government partners in the next day. You just, well, what happened? You know, that's not how things are. You know, you do trial balloons, you do consultations, you get public input from operators. Says we know the system. None of that happened. It was just bang, it's over, and basically the similar call to, I think, the district, which of course now, are we surprised that they backed off by a year? Probably not. But their process by which they did this really speaks to the inexperience. And if I can say, and you know, this is tough for me to say, the contact, the support we've had from BC Transit has been zero for the past probably 10 or 12 years. It's a revolving door. We get a new regional manager. It takes us a year to educate them and bring them up to speed with what these systems are all about. And then they're gone somewhere else. I don't know what's going on at BC Transit, but I just know what's happening, and because we see the result of it. The staffing turnover is incredible, and I think they pay reasonably well. So if I can leave you with one last comment, and I was speaking to Jason, and I'm hoping to go and speak before the regional district because of the Ashcroft system as well too, and also the regional district aspects of this system, and just to kind of do a presentation to them as to what's going on. But if I can impress upon you and the TNRD I would invite the CEO and the chairperson of the board of directors to come and give their rationale. Why are you doing this? Is it going to be cheaper for the taxpayer in Clearwater? I don't know. Is it going to be a better system? I don't know the answers to those questions. I suspect not. But I think, given that it went to the board of the BC Transit in February, there must have been some information. So I'll be curious to see what the CEO and the chairperson of the board of directors say.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you for your time.
And just for
the opportunity.
clarification, Mr. Keogh, I know that Ashcroft has a contract and Clearwater area has a contract, but what are the actual communities that are served by YCS through transit?
So this, Blue River to obviously Kamloops, right, for the North Thompson. And Ashcroft, and again, because the previous operator of the Ashcroft system was literally brought the system to its knees. They were losing tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on that system. We saved it. And actually the reason it shrunk a bit was because Mayor Ranta pulled Cache Creek out. They just couldn't pay the cost. 3 years after we took it over in 2015, 2014, they were making money. Ashcroft they were putting money into the reserves for new buses. They were no longer running deficits. So, and they shopped around, but we took it.
So
Ashcroft, Cache Creek,
Clinton?
Clinton.
we have Clinton, Lillooet's the Health Connections. Lillooet goes through Lytton.
Okay.
And we actually set up a little program for the village of Lytton after the fire. So we have a bus there. It's a Salvation Army bus that we got donated to us, and we got some grants from the Anglican Church and a few others we operate a bus twice a week going into Ashcroft and Lillooet.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Yeah, before I realized that I had a conflict of interest because, Joanna works for them. I did alert the chair of the TNRD board, who is also the mayor of Ashcroft, and it started that ball rolling and got a minister's meeting. So I believe Councillor Frizzle and our CAO will attend that, as well as mayors from other affected communities. Even if they don't have a contract, I'm hearing that Mayor Ranta is very interested, as is the mayor of Clinton as well. So hopefully we can push back both at the minister's level through Rob Fleming and through BC Transit. And I agree with you. I mean, I can imagine what we have a requirement, I believe, in Clearwater under letters patent at this point to provide transit. So the cost to taxpayers and the degradation of service, I think, would be appalling if this was to go forward as presented. And I'll stop talking so I don't get into trouble. Any further questions of Mr. Kehoe on this? If not, any further questions from the gallery?
I'd just like to say thank you to Mayor and Council for your support. And if I can raise something else, because I'm a little nervous about something that coming down the road in 2 months, forward around the housing project. And when you talk about conflict of interest, I'm getting nervous, because I'm wondering if you're going to have a quorum on this.
We should have a quorum on that, yes.
Well,
But
I can
yes.
count. I can count numbers, and I'm
So
worried that you.
we'll have a conversation about that. We actually
That was my suggestion.
I've asked the CAO to bring in a professional on conflict of interest, so we can slice and dice what is and what scope it is. So yeah, this is of concern. If we'd had another month or two, then we might have had a different layout at this table. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Yes, I had a conversation with the TNRD this morning about the application and when it's going to be coming forward. So we have time to be able to deal with this to make sure that we're in a good position. And I've certainly made note of that workshop has to happen before we come forward with the YCS application for rezoning.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. If there's nothing further from the audience, one more.
Hi, Chris Enns. I just have a quick question about the tendering process for the road construction, actually. I have no affiliation with either company, and I have no context other than reading the report today. But I'm just wondering, obviously the math is about 5%, 4.5% in terms of the difference in tender. Is there any part of the tendering process for local construction and like using local businesses? Because I drive past Borough all the time, and I don't know what your history is with Borough or anything like that. I'm new to the area, but their machines are just parked, and I'm just wondering about local jobs and opportunities and whether that's a part of the tendering process. I'm not saying go back and re-tender this. I'm just saying for the future, if it's not, maybe it's something that we should consider as a district.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your comments. I'll leave it to staff if there are any comments on that. I know that there's specifics to free trade and things like that that require us to bid.
There are trade agreements that mean that we have to accept from all bidders, not just local bidders. So, you know, our intention is to get as many bidders as possible. Hopefully the local companies win out, but it is a competitive process that's required and mandated by legislation.
So we cannot restrict who bids on it, but yes, I hear what you're saying. Councillor Sim.
So just to clarify, this went out on BC Bid. So everybody had that opportunity to see it, so it did impact local.
And just a follow-up then, is there an opportunity for companies to reduce their pricing at the end of it, or is it first in, lowest price, and that seals the deal, basically?
It's bid evaluation, but I'll let staff speak to that, but yeah, it's a combination.
Through bid evaluation, and what contractors do is look and see what other contractors have bid to see if they were high or they were low, and whether or not they have to sharpen their pencils moving forward. Obviously, here in Clearwater, mobilization costs are more expensive than in other communities because we have to pull contractors from out of town to bring it in. So it gives the locals more of a competitive advantage without having those mobilization costs. But nonetheless, the tenders are put out on BC Bid. They're competitive pricing, and we award based on the criteria in the bid.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have the need to move to in camera. There's a recommendation that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to section 91 of the community charter to discuss matters related to K negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that in the view of council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they are held in public, and 2B, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the municipality and provincial government or the federal government or both, or between a provincial government or the federal government or both and a third party. Can I get a mover and a seconder on that? Moved by Councillor Frizzle, seconded by Councillor Matheson. All those in favor, and we will take a recess till 3:10. Thank you.